Welcome to episode 3 of the Puck Bunker. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host Darren Boyce. We've got a few topics on the go today. We're going to cover 4 guys who are all A-rated by Central Scouting. Their list came out, and the 4 guys we're covering today are all A-rated. We got James Hagens, Kashawn Aitcheson, Lynden Lakovic, and Victor Eklund on deck today. But first, we're going to talk about a guy that we covered in episode 2, Justin Carbonneau, who I had the chance to get out to see last night live for the first time in Gatineau. And well, live viewings, I think, always give you a little bit better understanding of the player. And I think we talked about this in the second episode, where what you see on video sometimes matches with what you see in person, but doesn't always. And we talked a lot of time about Carbonneau, and Darren talked a lot about, because he covered the guys, like, what's he doing when he's not in the screen? I had almost no problem with his game last night at all. The things that we were maybe concerned about, I was like, okay, is he flying the zone too early? Is he just hovering back? Is he lazy coming back? I think a lot of him hanging up in the neutral zone is by design, because every time the D got the puck, he only did it when it looked like the puck was going to go their way. If there was a puck that was able to be contested, he was actually really, really hard on it. And I found that he really went aggressively into the corners. And if there was a battle to be had, he was in there scrumming it up. But if the play looked like it was already going to come back up the other way, yeah, he hung back. But his D knew, because they looked, as soon as they got the puck, they're looking up ice like, okay, where is this guy flying in? It was quite effective. I think we both thought on video that he looked like a very high second rounder. Seeing him in person, I think I'm more on board with the first round grade that Central Scouting gave him. It eased some concerns for me. Not that I had tons, but and the skill part's obvious. He's extremely skilled, but the problem with Gatineau is that they're so brutal that everybody looks good against Gatineau this year. Like, everybody looks good against Gatineau. And Blainwell is another guy that was rated a C prospect, I believe, Matteo Nobert, and want to give him mention because he actually had a very good game as well. He blocked a shot right off his knee, right above where the shin pad is. There's no padding, I think, is where he got it. And he went down pretty good and came back the next shift, and he scored a couple goals. I think he had 2 goals in that game, and played really well. Looked to be a pretty good playmaker. So wanted to give him mention because he had a good game. But Boyce, what do you think? I'll let you give some input here
regarding Carbonneau. I mean, his offensive upsides, I don't think, a question mark for us. I think there's a lot of offensive upside there. It's whether that other part of the game will play at the next level. And again, it's October. So, I mean, these guys, again, they're going to play different opponents. They're going to play better. He's going to have an opportunity to play with the prospect team against the U.S. national team. I'm very intrigued about what he would look like in that situation. I'm intrigued to see how he plays in that situation, what type of system they're going to play, what types of habits he'll have in that situation. But I mean, he is a good player, and he can definitely shoot the puck. He's good offensively. He has that skill set that teams are, going to be interested in. It's just, I do wonder, again, you're a contending team picking 26. Is that the guy you're going to take? That's all.
Now, I'm glad that you brought that point up again, because I kind of have. I've changed my opinion a little bit in terms of his floor, because we were talking more in a boomer bust type guy, but he brought a pretty physical edge. Like, he laid 5 or 6 hits and like went out of his way to hit guys with speed, sort of thing. So they knew he was there. He mucked it up in the corners. I saw him getting in lanes. Like, he's not afraid. And I almost feel now like he could almost play that David Perron type role, where you're pitching in offensively, but you're not the biggest guy, but you're running around, you're pissing guys off, you're hitting guys, you're mucking in the corners, you're giving guys shots. And I actually kind of think he has a little bit, like I say it all the time, you have to have a few pricks on your team. And I think he could actually play the role of pest and getting under a guy's skin while chipping in offensively, if he doesn't become that 30 goal, 60 point top six forward that his offensive skills suggest. But We were talking like there might not be as high of a floor, but honestly, watching him yesterday, I think he's got the feistiness to adapt into that like little bugger role if he needs to.
And that's why it'd be interesting to see him on, another team amongst his peers and see what type of role he plays. Because you're going to learn a lot in that situation, because he's probably not going to be playing the same role that he's playing, on his Q team.
No, because in Blainville, he's the guy.
Yeah,
he's the guy, right?
He won't be the guy on those teams. He'll be at least down the lineup a little bit. So
well, if he gets pushed to a third line. Now, I have a feeling like in those showcase series, like realistically, they're running 4 lines for the most part. I mean, unless the game's tight in the last 5 minutes, it's still the American team. You still want to win, but for the most part, this is a showcase event.
It's a scouting game, though. It's a scouting game. They're not gonna. I mean, they're gonna want to show well, so they're not.
Yeah, but the coaches will run 4 lines, is what I'm saying. So he'll get his ice time and he'll get his looks in that event. But you're right. I don't like. May not be a first line role, may not be first power play, but I'm interested to see too. I always like these events where you get all these guys on one sheet of ice, because it really lets you compare their skill sets amongst one another very easily, while like automatically, because you're like, whenever you're watching guys, you have to adjust mentally for the quality of competition, right? Like a good game, a good viewing against Gatineau doesn't mean as much as a good viewing against Moncton, for example, because the team's no good. But when they're all on the same team and they're all on the same ice and they're playing the US team, like, not that you want to put all your stock in that, but if you have questions about a guy, okay, give you an example. Last year, going to the top prospects game, I was on the camp of, is Yakimchuk skating good enough, or does he just dominate weaker opponents? Well, watching that game, and after about 2 shifts of watching him carry the puck, is okay, no, I'm fine with his skating, no issues. But it took that game to see that, because when they're just playing random teams, or especially European, where they're all different leagues and all different quality of competition, it's hard to adjust for that sometimes.
Yeah.
So anyways, cap off Carbonneau. I'm happy with Central's ranking of him as an A player. I think he looks like a first rounder to me at this point in the year after seeing him live, and I wasn't sure of that 3 days ago, but I'm a little more certain of it now.
Well, this is kind of an example, though. Like, our rankings are going to change week by week just by having a different viewing of him or seeing him in person. That'll happen throughout our process here.
Well, that's it, and that's why you make the drive to go watch these guys live, because what you see on video is not always what you get, and sometimes it's worse, and sometimes it's like this, where you like a guy actually better when you see him in person, which is what you're hoping for, anyways.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some features of some guys that we haven't talked about yet. Let's start with the defenseman. Darren's got a defenseman that we both like quite a bit, ranked A as well. So I'll let you do the introduction here, Darren.
All right. So this is Kashawn Aitcheson, and he is a September 2006 birthday, so he's 18 right now. 6'1", 198 pounds. Plays for the Barrie Colts, who are having a pretty decent year. I believe they're 7-4 or 8-4. They're not playing badly. So skating, he has pretty good skating, efficient strides. He doesn't really look like he's giving full effort at times, but he's very efficient in his skating. I wouldn't call him a burner, but it's pretty efficient. He's pretty solid in this category. Quickness, stops and starts are pretty good. Good with board battles, very strong. You can notice, in a lot of battles, he's pretty strong on his feet. My only downside of his skating, he does get flat-footed at times. His shot, not great through traffic. He tends to just, gets blocked or fires it through traffic. He does have a decent one-timer, though. He has scored on it, this year, and, he does take it during the game. Other than that, I'm not sure his shot's great. When he had open opportunities, the goalie's kind of made an easy save on it. In terms of defensive puck skills, he can execute, most key items there. He's got the ability to do the high flip, confident on his backhand, use his body to protect the puck. My only downside maybe with him is he's a little hard-handed receiving passes, just maybe a little choppy in that category. Still, I mean, that's fine. I mean, he is a defenseman. He's likely more making the pass in most situations. In terms of passing and playmaking, I actually found that he was decent in this category for, when you're looking at scouting reports of him, it's more he might not have a lot of offensive upside. I thought he made pretty good hard passes, and he actually, he had good breakout passes, very consistent, found the, smart option very often. But even in the offensive zone, he wouldn't take risks very often. But when he did, he was able to find, good seam passes in the offensive zone and actually find, create scoring chances with his passing. So it wasn't as much of, I think it was actually pretty good. So maybe there is a little bit more offensive upside there than maybe some other people think. In terms of his offensive, his hockey sense, he isn't bombing around the zone or anything. He's kind of staying home on the point the majority of the time. He's usually available as an outlet. The only issue I maybe have with him, again, when he does try to shoot the puck in the offensive zone, he's kind of going to areas where, the pass to him can kind of get picked off. His best skills, though, are his defensive presence. He's never running around. He's very confident in every situation. He's very poised, uses his stick well, uses his body well, to gain position on opponents and get the puck back. He holds the blue lines well, both the offensive and defensive blue line, and has a willingness to block shots, utilizes his partner effectively, and he communicates very well. You can see him, in both games that I viewed, that he's, talking to his teammates and being very vocal, which is a really good sign, especially for a young player. His compete, again, it might look like he's not maybe trying because he's, kind of, he's going slowly around the ice more, and he's trying to keep his energy up. But I mean, he has high effort in terms of battles. When he is caught, he races back to get back into position. And again, he's willing to, block shots, passes. He's willing to get into scrums. He's willing to defend his teammates. I mean, there's, a lot of good things with this player. And physicality, I mean, he's willing to give out hits. He's willing to accept hits as well to make plays. He did that numerous times where a guy would come in and hit him just so he could gain an advantage. Didn't seem to hurt him. He was prepared for it. He will. I mean, this is a good player, and physically he's mean. He's very mean, and I really like that part of his game. I mean, he threw numerous hits, I think, the last game we saw. And yeah, he's willing to engage. I think that would be how I would conclude with him. I think he is probably a mid-first rounder. If he was a right-hand shot, it would probably make him a higher pick. But he is a good player, and I think teams will be interested in him as a guy who would probably play in a middle pair. Yeah, so I don't know what you think, Rocco, but I don't know what you saw, but those are yeah. I like this guy.
The things that stood out to me mostly were his defensive, his D zone ability, and just all around ability, reading the play, battling hard, getting in the right spots. Like, his defensive play was extremely impressive, and his physical play is secondary to that. And to me, those were his top two things. And you add those two things with his ability to skate, and the fact that he doesn't handle the puck like a complete grenade. I agree. He's not taking passes the same way that James Hagens is, which we'll talk about later. He doesn't have those kind of hands, but I mean, he's a bruising defenseman. He doesn't need to have those kind of hands. He can accept any clean pass fine. He makes a really nice first pass. He doesn't miss guys' sticks too often. Even under pressure, he doesn't miss guys' sticks, which is a big thing for me, especially if you're looking for a more simple type of player. And I agree with that. I don't see a top 10 pick here because of the fact that he's probably not going to be like a 50-point defenseman or 60-point defenseman at the NHL, and also the fact that he's a lefty. But you're right, if those two things were changed, you'd be a little bit higher. But I think there's a lot of safety and a lot of comfort here for a team to take this guy, because they know they're going to get an NHL player again. And this is always, when we say like, you never know for sure. Like, this is always assuming the development curve continues and they stay healthy, of course, because anything can happen to guys. But he looks like as good of a bet as any to develop into a full-time player, and he's got a mean streak to him too, which you like. He's not going to take shit from everyone, and he's going to dish it out. He's not afraid, like you say. I noticed him battling a lot, really hard in front of the net and behind the boards, and he loves cross-checking guys and he loves giving guys extra shots, which I personally really like to see.
Another thing I like too is when he does hit guys, he isn't really racing out of position to do so. He's kind of doing it kind of in in the the way the play is going.
Yeah,
the other thing he's been playing
guy.
Yeah, and he's been playing against the other team's top line. In a lot of these clips, I mean, he's playing against against Brampton's now, top line in a lot of those clips. And I mean, they kind of shut them down that game. I mean, Barrie won that game, and Brampton is a good team.
I think he's excellent here. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for a team not to take him inside the top 20. I think, like, it's going to be really hard to pass on him inside the top 20 once you get outside the top 10. He's a name that, if you have a need for that, it's going to be very, very tough to pass on him for some other guys that'll probably be around that spot that maybe have a little more upside, but maybe a few more questions as well. Because I think this is a guy that in 3 or 4 seasons is going to be a regular in your top 4 and probably playing some harder minutes for you.
Well, even with his offense, though, I didn't hate his offense. I mean, we've looked at Mirka already this year, and I'm really concerned, what type of offense he would bring at the next level.
I think Aitcheson has better offensive ability.
Yeah, I don't think he's bad in that regard. I mean, he's going to move the puck. He can make a pass in the offensive zone. I don't think he has a terrible shot. I mean, he has a decent one-timer. But he's not going to run a first power play at the NHL level. No, but I mean, he's going to give you something. He's not going to give you, 12 points. Yeah, he's going to give you something.
I think it'd be a 30 to 40 point defenseman.
Yeah, he can give you something, and that's a quality defenseman if he's going to play, a good defensive role in your team.
100%. He's a guy that everyone's going to want to have, and I think this is a guy too that, as the games get harder, I feel like he's going to look better and better. Like, wait till
I do look forward to what he looks like in the playoffs, in the OHL playoffs. That'll be interesting to see.
And that's it. And being that type of guy, like, that's maybe when your stock can really go up too, because the harder the game, like, it's fine. It's good. It's good to draft NHL players, and there's only so many jobs. And if you play one game in the NHL, or you get drafted, or you get even invited to one NHL camp, like, you're an insanely good hockey player. But not everyone is going to be a star, and not every NHL player that makes the NHL is a guy that's going to help you win in the playoffs. So when you're coming to the draft, yes, you want to draft NHL players, but you want to draft NHL players that you actually want to be on your team. Because you could draft a bunch of small skill in the mid rounds that, yes, they make the NHL, but what is that going to do if you have a whole team full of that? Whereas this guy, the harder the games get, the more valuable he's going to become, I think.
Oh, probably. And I mean, he's 6'1", so he's big enough, and he'll probably play bigger than his size too. So this is a guy. This is probably a guy that you could see. Again, you're projecting out maybe a number 4 or something on a contending team, something like that, right?
Yeah, and if everything goes well, he can maybe be your number 2 in the sense, like, your number 2 in the sense that he plays on your first pair, maybe with your best guy, and really stabilizes that. But I do think he'd be able to probably play on any pair, given his skill set. Really, he just may not be the offensive driver, but that's okay. Like, you're not every guy is going to be, and you do need extremely strong supporting pieces, because you look at teams without them and they get bounced from the playoffs early.
Yeah. We won't hurt you, but I don't think he'll hurt you that way. So, yeah, I think
I don't think he's devoid of offensive skill. He's going to be able to chip in, but he's not Adam Fox.
No, he's not Adam Fox. No.
No, but his stat line could look, and again, different players, but his stat line could look like a Parayko, where it's like, 5 to 10 goals, 15 to 25 assists.
Yeah.
And you're no fun to play against, and you play hard minutes. Pretty good player. Pretty damn good player. So we both like him a lot, and he's a no-brainer first rounder, just a matter of where he goes. Let's move on now to let's go over to Sweden, and let's talk about a guy that I'm going to feature, Victor Eklund, the 5'11", 165-pound winger. He's got 4 goals and 8 points in 11 games to start his season with Djurgårdens in the Allsvenskan, which is basically Sweden's second men's division. So he is playing against men already this year, and he's doing so at a rather small size as well. So that's actually really impressive. His skating immediately jumps off the page at you. He's got a very, very good top speed. He's going to be well above average at any level, including the NHL. I think this is something that's always going to help him excel, no matter where he ends up playing. Really, really quick as well. I think his quickness is almost more impressive than his top speed. He does really have top-notch agility and ability to cut and change direction without losing pace and really gain separation. You see guys all the time where they kind of raise their one skate onto their toe and cut, and guys who are really good at it can use that move to gain separation from defenders, and he already does it against guys who are 10 years older than him, which is super, super impressive. Absolutely has a goal scorer's shot, I think, and a really dangerous release. He can really, really hammer the puck, and he knows where to shoot it too. I think he has a very good eye to where he places his shots. He's not just blindly shooting at the net like I do. He actually can hammer pucks and actually place them at the same time. Which, even if you talk to a lot of goal scorers, they just say, "Yeah, I don't know, I just shoot." But I think there's some intention here with him, and I think that kind of indicates his hockey sense. He's a really, really smart player, very, very, very confident stick handling, and this is his puck skills are one of his better assets, if not his best, but one of his better assets for sure. But it's almost so good that it hurts him sometimes, because he's so confident with the puck that he can be guilty of being the one too many moves guy, and probably used to being able to get away with that growing up and at the junior level. But you're playing against men now, like they're not going to let you get away with that too much, and sometimes it works. But when he does make a mistake and when he does make a turnover or an error, it's usually at a time where I'm like, okay, he just made 2 guys look stupid. Quit while you're ahead and dish the puck. And it's that last move that can get him into trouble sometimes. But honestly, like, when you've been doing it your whole life and you're that good at it, I can see why, like, that might take some time to get out of his game, but I'm not worried about it, because he's so like, you want a guy that has that kind of confidence rather than teaching him to have that kind of confidence. As a playmaker, I really like his ability. He does put some really nice zip on his passes, and he's able to hit guys through seams and get pucks over sticks or under sticks and have that judgment as to what kind of touch to put on his passes. So to me, that makes him a really, really impressive dual threat as both a shooter and a passer, which is hard for guys, hard for defenders to prepare for, because they do have to respect what you're doing. And if they give you a look to shoot, you can beat them. And if they take away the shot, that means the guy's open. So I do think even at this men's level, he is mentally a half step ahead of the play compared to most guys out there. He tracks it really, really well. And a lot of times you look where the play is going and he's kind of somewhere else, but then 3 frames later, the puck's on his stick and he's able to kind of read and anticipate where that play is going ahead of time, which again, I'm going to keep repeating this. He's doing it against men, and he's a small winger. So that's really, really impressive what he's doing. Better defensively, I think, than most offensively gifted wingers are at this age. And if he's not better defensively in terms of the details, he is at least in terms of the effort. Most of the time, I'm really not seeing him. I'm really not seeing him dog it out there in the D zone ever. And even though he may compete a little harder offensively, I mean, he's a winger. There's only so much you can do in the D zone other than not blowing your assignments, and he doesn't blow his assignments very often. So now, effort level on that topic, his effort level, like overall, is absolutely outstanding. Like this might be his compete level, might be his number one trait, and that is really rare to say about a guy who has so many high-end offensive abilities, that his ability and willingness to compete in battle is actually his biggest attribute. But I've watched a few games of his, and you can see it on these video clips. Like he's all over the ice. He's getting to the dirty areas. He's actually hitting guys, which, I mean, he doesn't do much of them, but he's in there. He's trying. Like he can't control how big he is, but he controls the things he can control. And like, he's not afraid of anything. He blocks shots. Like, I don't know. This guy, I really, really, really like this player. Like I said, not scared of anyone despite his size. He actually beats bigger guys in puck battles in the corners and down low. And he actually uses his size to his advantage by getting actually underneath guys and getting lower and winning that way. Willing to block shots. There's one sequence in this video that you saw. He blocked like 3 shots in a row, and he's diving like 1980s like goalie style, like kick saving a beauty at the top of the blue line, taking pucks off the boot. He actually got hurt a couple games ago because he took a slap shot pretty hard and had to leave the game. But like I like that he's willing to do this. Like he eats cross checks in front of the net in order to earn that space. Now, like negative wise, he needs to add a ton of strength. Obviously, like he's 165 pounds. He's obviously very easy to knock around when a bigger guy gets a hold of him, and he's not out muscling anyone. But other than his size, like I love how this guy plays the game. His natural skill and the way he thinks the game is really, really impressive. If he's 6'1" or 6'2", we're talking about this guy up with the Mises and the Martones and the Hagens. Like he skill wise, I think he's in that tier, and effort level wise, he battles harder than any of them that I've seen so far. So he can't control that he's 5'10", he's listed at 5'11", but I mean, I don't believe that. We'll see when the official measurements come at the end of the year, but he's small. But that's the only thing that he is that you don't like. Everything else about his game, like, screams like first line player all day long.
He is the highest compete level of anyone we've seen so far.
Zonin, maybe.
I don't know. This guy's getting
really so hard.
This guy's getting involved everywhere, and I even give him more credit because he's smaller. So the tendency for those guys is to not do that.
Yeah.
And so I do think that probably plays at the NHL level, especially, with a smaller guy. That'll, teams will really like that. I do worry about him getting injured, though. I mean, the one game that I viewed, he also, as you talked about, he blocked a shot like in the middle of his body, like, which is incredible. Like, great work. Like, I love that he's willing to do that. Like that, as a draft eligible player, I don't think you see that very often. So, I mean, I really enjoyed that. And his other skills are good. I mean, he can shoot the puck a bit. He's really fast. And I like too that he went to the middle of the ice a lot of the time. He wasn't playing as a perimeter player. So, I mean,
which is weird. The European game can be very perimeter just because it's a wider ice surface. It's going to be pushed out, spread out more.
But there was a sequence too. I saw he kind of fell in the corner, but as he was falling, he kind of got the pass to the point.
Yes.
Instead of just sitting there, he got up and went right to the net, and they ended up scoring.
Yes, yeah. And got a stick on it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you see on that tip play too, where he scored that goal. He's right in front of the net, and right before the defenseman shoots the puck, he's got his hands on the defenseman's pants, and he just gives him a little push, just a little one, not enough for any kind of penalty, but almost like an offensive pick in football, right? Where he just pushes the little guy, gains a foot of separation, and now he's got the room to get his hands up there and tip that puck. So to me, that was a really smart play.
Mm-hmm. And he's doing this against men too. I mean, this is a level up, and we've talked about before Again, in a previous episode, I was talking about Murka, who's also playing in pro, and it's a bit of a struggle for him. This isn't a struggle for Eklund. He's playing well, so that is noteworthy. And, especially in a pretty good league. So it'll be interesting to see if he'll probably be on the World Junior team. So it'll be interesting to see what role he's playing in there. I'm assuming he would be on their first line. And
well, hold on there, because that's a 19-year-olds tournament usually.
It is, but he's gonna play. He's 18, like he's a late birthday.
No, and that's fair. And like I would have him on, but
he'll be on that team. It'd be interesting to see though if he's in an offensive role. I mean, that would be what you'd want to see, and how he looks amongst his peers versus pros. I mean, that's what you'd want to see.
Big time. Because, and I think he would look very good. I mean, he looked very good against pros. I think he looked excellent against his peers. To me, this is a guy that should be probably in the top 10.
Yeah. The only worry I think with teams would be his size. Other than that, I'm not sure.
But I'm not as worried about his size, because the strength and the weight you can add weight if you're determined enough. Like, it's really, I mean, it is hard, but you can do it. So he can get up to a weight that's going to make teams happy. Like if he can get up to playing at 185 or 180 and be at least, big enough to handle the rigors of the game. But I don't like small players usually, and I don't care about his height, because he doesn't play small. He plays hard. And like I said, you can't control your size, but everything that he can control, I like what he does.
Yeah.
So that's Victor Eklund, someone that we both are quite high on. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this now, and I think this is. I don't think this is necessarily even a hot take, because I think I've seen more than one person suggest it at this point. But I don't think that Frondell is a slam dunk to be the first Swede drafted this year. I think this kid could be taken ahead of him.
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll do a review of Frondell maybe here coming up. Maybe we can compare the two here. But
that'd be a great exercise, actually.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see, because they're different players, right? So it'll be interesting to see what what we come away with in that regard. But yeah, I'm with you. I liked pretty much everything I saw. Again, I've said it before. I do have a bias towards maybe the bigger players,
and so do I.
Yeah. So I mean, that's usually
so do teams.
Yeah, well, exactly. So that might impact his draft positioning a little bit.
But that's what I mean, though. Like, if he's 6'1", we're talking about him. We're trying to rank him amongst Hagens, Martone, and Misa.
Oh yeah.
Rather than amongst the next tier of guys, which is what we're talking about.
It doesn't have like 8 or 9 points in 11 games too. Like he's playing pretty well. Like
8 points in 11 games, 4 goals, 4 assists. In a men's league, that's like, the European leagues aren't high scoring either. Like, to be close to a point a game is really good there.
Yeah.
So let's move on to someone who has been talked about as the unanimous first overall pick. And that's James Hagens. And Boyce, I'll let you present this one, and then we can chat about him.
All right. So James Hagens, he was the Boston College, and he's again another late 2006 birthday. So this is kind of becoming a theme of this draft class. So he's 5'10", 176, and he's a centerman. And he's only played 3 games so far. He's got 5 points, or 3 official games anyway at Boston College. He's got 5 points. So, I mean, he's putting up numbers. In terms of the actual player, things that we like here, definitely his skating. He looks pretty fast. It's definitely a plus for him. And his agility and his quickness. I would call him a very shifty player. He's also very comfortable on his edges. He's very comfortable, skating backwards, going in defensive positions, stuff like that. These look like plus assets for him. In terms of shooting, when he does shoot the puck, he has a really good release, and it's quick, and it can beat goalies. My issue at times is that he either shoots from poor positions, or B, it just gets blocked a lot. He just kind of shoots it. So it's good that he's a willing shooter. He might just have to maybe choose better positions to shoot it from. He's good around the net too. When guys set him up, he'll get a good hard shot on net, with a one-timer in that. So I really like that. Puck skills. Now the games I saw, he looked a little bit rough, and I will say it was the first game he played. So the first period and a half, looks like he was kind of getting into the game. He had the puck kind of taken away from him numerous times on dekes. However, as the game went on, it did get a little bit better. He does, again, he's very shifty with his skating, and it does look like his hands are fairly, I would say fairly shifty as well. He's really good on faceoffs, and he does engage on puck battles on the boards, but he's not great there yet. In terms of passing and playmaking, I actually thought he struggled with this in the 2 games that I saw. Had multiple passes picked off and kind of deflected, didn't make the right decision all the time, and then threw pucks into traffic. So I don't want to say a turnover machine, but he did commit a lot of turnovers in the 2 viewings that I had. To counter that, though, I mean, he had a bunch of assists in the games that you watched, and, he made some really nice plays. So, I mean, I think the skill's there. It's probably just he's learning a new level. So, I mean, I have some concerns about the turnovers. I'd like to see that improve kind of as the year goes on. But I mean, he's shown before that he has, the playmaking ability. In terms of offensive hockey sense, I mean, he did make some good reads. There was other times where he just didn't execute. So again, now I assume this will probably get better as the year goes on. And on the power play, I mean, he looked pretty good on the power play. Maybe stood around a little bit too much without making a decision on the power play sometimes. But I mean, once, that didn't happen too often, and he was pretty good at moving the puck. So, I mean, the skill's there. I actually liked him defensively, I think, better than you. He was a pretty active defender. He wasn't always in the right position, but he was, making an effort to get back. He has a really strong stick, and he can create, turnovers that way and break up, possessions and stuff like that. I thought his effort level was actually, he wasn't going to be a very physical player, but he was being bumped around a lot in the games we saw, which I guess makes sense considering he's supposed to be the projected #1 pick playing in a new league. And he didn't really back down. He kept coming in the game, and he actually got better as both games went on. And he also I think he has a pretty high work rate in terms of he's playing at high speed all the time, and he's just going to keep coming and coming. I don't think he really gave up or anything. If something didn't work, he would try again. So, I mean, you do like that skill set. In terms of physicality, he's not an extremely physical player, but he didn't shy away from it. I mean, he is 5'10", and he's about 180 pounds. So he does noticeably look somewhat small out there. But he wasn't, again, not shying away. He does need to get a little bit stronger, though. I mean, along the boards and that, he didn't look like he was that, the strongest guy along the boards, especially, he's definitely playing older players. So that'll be something we'll look at for improvement too. So again, I like the player. Obviously, a lot of people like this player. He's, he does have high-end skill. He does have some high-end traits. I'm a little bit worried that I saw, the amount of turnovers that I did in the games that I saw. So I would like to see that improve, but I don't think he's a slam dunk #1 pick. I mean, he is an older player for this draft class. He's smaller, and, I've heard people bandy about that this is a Jack Hughes type player. He doesn't have the playmaking of a Jack Hughes there. So I don't know if that's, exactly, what you'd be expecting out of this player. But I mean, he's still in that class, that class. In my opinion, as of right now, I would have Misa 1 in comparison.
Okay.
That would be my opinion. But the other guy I'd be interested in would be Schaefer, who just came back, and I'm wondering what he is, what he's going to look like. And I say that because those two guys are younger guys, and especially with a 5'10" player, I'm not sure they're going to take him first overall and being an older player.
Okay, so there might be the first really hot take on this show is that Darren Boyce, you can tweet him, let him hear about this at Puck Bunker Boyce, does not think that James Hagens is the first overall pick at this moment. You make a lot of good points, honestly, and I'm going to completely bypass the talk, like the discussion about his individual skill, because he's been talked about as the first overall pick for the last 2 years for a reason. His individual skill is supremely high. For me, the biggest thing, there's a couple things here. I would love to see it more consistently. Now, when you do see it, he does make plays that other guys can't make. And what really makes it stand out to me is when he does things at full speed. He can make plays at full speed that I don't see other guys making. Now, there's a couple of guys, but like it's truly this is why he's being talked about as first overall, because it's his ability to do things at top speed and to make plays while he's on his edges or to make plays while there's pressure coming at him. His ability in that sense is really elite. To do everything in motion, and that's hard. That's hard to do. To make plays without slowing yourself down, but he doesn't do it as consistently as I'd like. And the other thing is, you touch on it a couple times there, is the turnovers. He was a giveaway machine. That I watched 2 games. I watched a game against the U.S. and I watched one of the games against Michigan, and it was just like, I don't know. If he wasn't doing something really good with the puck, he was doing something really bad with it. And I don't love to see that discrepancy from a guy that we're talking about first overall. I'd like to see him be more responsible with the puck. Is my biggest critique of his game, is that he can be careless with the puck at times. And you saw that there was a bunch of clips where he's given the puck away, and if it continues throughout the year and people don't believe us, we'll do a low light video of all the, I don't want to do that, but I'm just joking around mostly. But he's extremely talented. He's a super skilled player, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it's just, there are things that kind of like, I don't love that play. And like, honestly, I haven't seen the moments from some of the other guys as much.
Well, like you see when he, they do score, he does, have a good assist. Like you see like what everyone else sees, right?
For
like
sure.
There's some really high, I mean, there's a couple plays, I think in the third period of the last game I watched, where he's kind of making these like elite saucer passes, like, like at speed, like to his teammates. Like these are good plays. But I do wonder, again, I want to see the turnovers come down, when I see this player again. Now, remember, against his peers, he literally has the record at the under 18 tournament for scoring now. So,
yeah, Darren, we're not debating his skill. Like, we know how talented the guy is.
But I think the reason I say I like Misa better is that, again, he's younger. And I think that age thing is not being talked about enough by a lot of the pundits out there, as being a factor in this. Like, there's not a lot of 2007, draft eligibles, high up in this draft. I mean, it's a big deal. Like, especially like a guy even with Schaefer, right? Like, he's going to be one of the youngest guys in the draft. He's going to be like that makes it makes a difference.
Schaefer's a week or 2 away from missing this draft and being
exactly
in
like that makes a big difference.
And Hagens is one of the oldest guys. I'm glad you brought up Schaefer. Hagens is one of the oldest guys, right, with the November birthday, November 06, I think, I believe. And Schaefer has September 07. So they're almost like, they're 10 months. They're almost a full year apart. And they're
already development at that age.
Right.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned maybe Misa being a guy that you like better, but for me, I'm almost looking at Schaefer as the guy.
Well, it's definitely a possibility. We just don't have any game. I think he just played. Yeah, or did he just play yesterday? Yeah, was that his first game?
He's played 2 games now. His first game back there, and he played 26, 27, like 26 and a half minutes, coming off having mono, and it's like, yeah, just go play half the game, you'll be fine. But he was awesome.
Yeah,
you go watch the goal he scored. Oh my God, what a shot! He's really, 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 really impressive.
Well, that's what I mean. If we're gonna, as he's not a slam dunk one, Hagens is not a slam dunk one pick, and I think that's, in terms of even comparing the player to him to Misa, I think Misa's might be more the Jack Hughes looking type than Hagens is.
And Misa's been a turnover machine too, but in a positive sense. He's been creating turnovers for his team.
Exactly.
Not
now different level
though, right?
Different level though. I mean, he is playing in NCAA. Sure. It's an older league, so that that there is that, and he's just it's his fourth. How many games he played? 4, I guess 3 games in the NCAA. It's 3 because he played the U.S. national team as the 4th game. So I mean, he'll get better as that goes on. Misa's been in the OHL for 2 years. So, I mean, he's used to the league.
100%. But hey, you're the one that said you liked him better. We're having the debate.
I do. No, I know. I'm just countering my own point.
You're countering your own points here.
Countering my own point.
But I'm just going to sign off and let you argue with yourself.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, I'm interested to see how he looks, when we do maybe a viewing in a month of him. And then, again, I'm assuming again, we'll probably be on the U.S. World Junior team. The top picks tend to be.
Well, we'll get to see him in person then.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting. Anyway. Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see him. And see, these things we pointed out in the NCAA, if they exist, at that level as well.
Yeah, and that's completely fair too. And I'm so excited to have the World Juniors in Ottawa this year. Like it's gonna be great. But no, I don't disagree that he's not a slam dunk first overall pick yet. Now, I do agree that does he have the individual skill to be that by the time the season's over? 100% he does. But again, we said this a bunch of times. There's no perfect 17-year-old prospect, 18-year-old prospect in the world. I don't care who you are. You have things to work on. So we'll see. We'll see how he does. But I mean, the talent is there. He's so good, and especially at top speed. But it is nice that we might actually have something to talk about. In terms of the first overall pick, the last few years, the draft has really started at pick number 2, and hopefully us and all the other pundits out there will maybe agree that there might be some debate with some of these 07 guys as the year goes on.
Yeah, I think there should be definitely a debate between at least 3 or 4 guys, at least now. But again, we can talk about that in a future episode. We'll get onto that because I know you have another player you want to look at.
We're going to talk about that debate all year long. I'm sure that's the point, right? We're going to build our list as the season goes on, which we'll talk about in future episodes. We're getting close to the point where we're ready to start releasing some rankings almost. But for right now, we're going to go back out west to the WHL, and I'm going to feature a guy by the name of Lynden Lakovic. The 6'4", 190-pound winger has 6 goals and 16 points through his first dozen games with Moose Jaw in the WHL at the time that we're recording this. He's a very powerful skater, and he can be very, very hard to handle for defensemen once he gets going. But more impressive than the power in his stride is his edges. Like, he's 6'4", and he has truly, truly excellent edges. And honestly, not even just for his size. Like, he just has very, very good edge work. And the fact that he's 6'4" makes it all the more impressive to me. Now, his quickness in terms of getting up to speed or getting up to the point where he can use those edges, his quickness could use a half step. But I do think because the rest of his skating is so strong, I do think that the quickness will come once he grows into his body a little bit more. It is tougher and it does come a little bit slower for bigger guys, and that's very, very normal. But overall, is very impressed with his overall skating ability, again, especially for his size. And that includes like a very, very good ability to cut and change direction in stride, which is becoming more and more, honestly, more and more important. It's one of the main ways that guys gain separation these days. Now, shooting wise, he can absolutely rip the puck. He does play the flank on the power play, so he's set up in one-timer positions, and at the junior level at least, he can beat goalies completely clean. So I do think that at the NHL level, he is going to bring an NHL quality shot to the table, and he is going to be able to be a goal scorer and play the power play in that role at the next level. Another thing that again is going to be relative to his size a little bit are his hands. He has very, very soft hands and very good touch. Very good touch for what kind of frame he's working with. He has hands that you'd see more typically in a sub 6 foot guy, and that's one thing that really, really stands out as pretty impressive. Now I don't know that he has the kind of hands like a Hughes or a Zegras, but he has very, very good big man hands, and that's all you can ask. Above average as a playmaker. He does set his teammates up, I find, in ways that allows them to make a play off of what he's doing. So that's good because it shows a little foresight into his plays. He's not just passing just to get rid of the puck. He's putting his teammates in really good spots when he moves the puck. So that's something I like about his playmaking game. Although he's not doing anything like crazy or novel out there. He's more on the simple side of playmaking, but I don't have a problem with guys that make simple plays as long as they're simple and effective and smart, which I find that he is. Rarely will you find him standing completely still in the offensive zone. He's always moving around, looking to create a lane or make himself open. He does a really good job of squaring up to whoever's carrying the puck, so that he's always an option for them. And if he's not an option, he's taking couple strides forward or a quick push backwards, just to gain a foot or two of room to make himself available. Defensively, I thought his hockey sense was decent, but as much as moving around a lot and frequently in the offensive zone can help him, sometimes it hurts him defensively, and he can pull himself out of position a little bit, because he is constantly in motion. So I'd like to see him. I love it in the offensive zone, but I like it to be a little more calm and quiet defensively. Although again, I don't have any major issue with his defensive game. He competes fine. He competes fine. I don't have any issue with his compete level, but I would like to see it a little more consistently, shift to shift. When it's there, he brings it, but sometimes it's not always there. But I mean, again, not an uncommon criticism for a younger player. He's far from lazy, but there are guys out there that do work harder, and that's something that you can control. Now, physically a bit of a double-edged sword here with him, because I love how he uses his body and his size to his advantage offensively, especially as a puck carrier, or when he's trying to dig pucks out of corners. Like, he really does know how to use his size to shield the puck and to ward off defenders, and he protects the puck extremely well. And in that sense, his physical play is really good. But I'm going to need to see some more assertiveness in terms of physical play, like run a guy over once in a while, please. You're 6'4", you're bordering 200 pounds, and it's tough because you want to be like, if he was 6 foot and had this kind of skill and didn't play super physical, I wouldn't be hard on him about it. But because he's so much bigger and stronger than everyone, like, why is that not an element to your game? Like, make guys scared of you too. Like, look at that play he just made. Oh my God, that, like, his hands are, like, you see his hands deking around that guy. Like, again, he's 6'4". Like, he shouldn't be able to do that with his mitts at that age, at that size. But he is. But at the same time, like, when you go in the corner, you should be the 6'4" mean guy and not the 6'4" skill guy. And maybe I'm being a little nitpicky, because again, it's not like he's soft at all, but there's times where he could run a guy through the boards clean and he doesn't do it. And I don't see why you wouldn't. So I think that's something that, like, if he did add that as an element to his game, like, now all of a sudden you go from a dangerous offensive player to a guy who's just downright scary to play against in any zone, regardless of who has the puck. And I would love to see that from him as the season progresses. That's really my only criticism, honestly. Otherwise, I absolutely love the player. And if he was running guys, no, you don't have to run guys over to hurt them, but just, hit guys hard, hit guys clean when the opportunity is there. And otherwise, I really, really like this game. And I think this is a guy that, if he's not already being talked about as a top 10 pick, I think he will be.
Yeah. Well, you just wish you would lean on guys a little bit more. I think that's what I saw there, because he's huge.
Yeah.
But he was good along the boards and that. He's good physically, maybe that way.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah. So he's not a total liability physically. You wish you would hit more guys and be
he's not a liability at all.
Right?
Yes, he's physically, that's what I mean. Physically, in certain ways, like you said, along the boards, when he has the puck, physically he's great because he doesn't let anyone touch it. He really knows how to use his body to make sure that happens. But it's when he doesn't have the puck and there's a guy in the corner has the puck on his stick that he's 3 foot from. Why are you going in with a stick check and not making sure that guy is scared next time he has it?
Yeah, no. And again, I like the big player who's a mean guy to play against. So, I like the player too. I actually think I was a little bit higher on his playmaking than you were, because he made the right decision a lot of times, whether it was to make a short pass, whether it was start a cycle, and it was rim in, or even make a seam pass. He could do all those things, and he did them really well. And
Did I not like his playmaking?
Well, it didn't even seem like he was rushed. Like, I think he's a really, really good playmaker. I think I had maybe as his best skill, for a big guy that way. There's some shades here. Again, he's a much better skater than this player I'm going to talk about, but he's kind of got some Jamie Benn in him that way, because he's a really good playmaker for a big guy. And you don't see that very often, but Jamie Benn's also much more physical than him.
Jamie Benn's a fucking prick, dude.
Yeah, I know he's much more physical than him, but I'm just saying.
I don't know if we're allowed to swear. I mean, I guess it's our show; we can swear if we want. But
I get that I get that, but it's just the playmaking of the big guy, right? Like, I really like what I saw there.
Right. So and me too. Like, dude, I really like this playmaker. Like I said it. He puts his guys in really good positions when he makes plays, and that indicates a very, very smart player to me. But what if like Jamie Benn, like, what if he added that physical element, and now he's like
scary,
Jamie Benn, or or Corey Perry,
he'd be a faster Jamie Benn if he did that.
Right. So, like, man, run someone over. Like, I want to put this guy. I want to see something that will allow me to put him in my top 5, because I love this guy. But there's guys, I think, right now that have brought a little bit more of an overall package to the table. Like, I think I have him in my top 10 right now, or very, very close to it, if not.
Well, another thing with the theme today, another 06 birthday.
Yeah. Yes. Another, like, man, a lot of athletes were banging around Valentine's Day that year, right? Having these late 06 birthdays. All these.
So here's a question. So there's 2 guys we've talked about. There's McQueen, and then there's Lakovic. So which guy do you actually like better?
I think that if I hadn't already seen Roger McQueen dominate internationally and look really strong last year, if I only watched them this year, I'd probably like Lakovic better. Yeah. Because I've seen McQueen at his best already. I like it's to the sense where, like, I'm open to the debate, but like Lakovic is going to have to surpass McQueen. It's not like it's 2 guys where I only saw them for the first time both this year. Like, you know what I mean? I have more of a little bias because I'm a lot more familiar with McQueen. That said, what I've seen of Lakovic this year in the WHL is better than what I've seen from McQueen.
Yeah. So
that's why I said, like, I want to put him in my top 5, because, like, McQueen is right. He's in my 5 spot right now, and I I would love to swap him, but I just need Lynden. I just need you to run one guy through the boards, and then we'll move you up. Not that you give a shit what I think, but
well, maybe we'll see him hit some guys here coming up soon. So hopefully we can do that.
But overall, like I really like this player. I mean, we're talking about him in our top 10 here. Like we obviously,
which I don't think a lot of people do. A lot of people have him in their top 10. Like he does look like a top 10 player.
I think I saw Elite Prospects has him there, I believe, or at least did at one point. We looked over their list together. Shout out to Elite Prospects. Feel free to send us a free subscription. Just kidding. We already subscribed, but he's I think he was there on their list, and that was the first time I saw him that high. But I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well, there's a pro skill set here. There's a successful NHL skill set and body here that a lot of teams are going to be interested in. I would be interested in it. That's for sure. I'm interested in him as a player.
His hands and his puck skills are so good,
especially for a big man. You don't. That's unique. You don't find, even if we're talking about the guys at the top of the draft, they're not this big, and they can't. Like he skates really well, especially for a big man.
Not overall, but like this one part of his game, the puck skills remind me a little bit of what I saw from Seneke last year, where at the beginning of the year it was like, okay, he's big, he can play, he's skilled, and it's like one or two plays a game where it's like, whoa, okay, like that was like a really high skilled play in terms of stick handling for a guy that size, and you saw them more and more as the year went on, and he ended up being a top 3 pick by the end of the year, which did surprise a lot of people, including himself. I think if we all saw that video from the draft where he was like, "Oh, really?" But that's what it is, right? You get that combination of size and puck skill, and it's like you're projecting, like, what is this going to be? What's this kid going to be when he's 24 years old?
Exactly. And like he should be a tank at that age, and maybe he'll be hitting guys by that time.
Yeah. Or at least maybe a little harder. We're not trying to be hard on the kid. I mean, he's a hell of a player. But when you're that,
he's really good.
When you're that big, you should be a little bit scary to play against, I feel. But that's going to conclude us for this episode. So 4 guys here who we really like. These are all first rounders to us, and we thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share it, comment, subscribe. Give us some feedback, please. Feedback is what we'd really love. What do you want to see more of from us? Or if you don't want to see us at all, that's fine. Thank you either way for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
All right, we'll see you guys later.